Jack, would you please stop playing video games and do something else like go outside and play?
But Mom, I'm in the middle of a game.
All you do is play video games. What am I gonna do with you? Is this a problem in your household? Do you have children who never seem to get off their gaming console or computer? Well, here's why. Digital addiction is a prominent problem in today's society and is ever present in the younger generation. Many of your kids may have already experienced this issue, whether it's the starting stages, to acute addiction, or even to full-blown addiction. Therefore, we are here to tell you how this happens and what you can do to prevent this from happening to your children.
Why is the youth of today's civilization a target for intervention? Gaming addiction can affect anyone, anywhere in the world, no matter the age or gender. However, adolescents are predominantly affected due to a number of reasons, including acting as an escape when the individual gets stressed. Thus, we must aid the youth with dealing with their sporadic emotions before video games are used as a coping mechanism, which can form the basis of an addiction.
Why should you be concerned? Many children experience a range of different symptoms associated with gaming addiction. This can range from social withdrawal, loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities, and the more serious mental health issues, such as depression. The worry for this, of course, is the risk that the mental disorders can also accompany other health problems, such as anorexia, insomnia, and obesity. Although these could be associated with simply adolescent behavior, recognizing a collection of these problems can hint at a possibility of gaming addiction. Lack of intervention could lead to aggressive behavior towards classmates and teachers, which will have a direct impact on their development and studies. The early stages of life are so vital in shaping who they will become that help must be given should this problem arise.
Let's take a deeper look at some of the neurobiological aspects behind digital gaming addiction. Similar to substance addictions, digital gaming addiction activates a reward pathway of our brain. Playing video games may increase dopamine levels in our brain, a neurotransmitter that is released when something good happens to our body. In other words, dopamine is one of the main reasons behind why we feel particularly good after we, for example, eat tasty food. These high levels of dopamine in the brain will then motivate an individual to continue playing video games to attain those feelings of pleasure and arousal. This in turn leads to addiction.
Neuroimaging studies have found multiple brain areas associated with digital gaming addiction, such as primarily the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the parahippocampal gyrus in the thalamus of the limbic system, and the orbital frontal cortex. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is crucial to our working memory, that is, our ability to remember relevant experiences while engaging in an activity, as well as our motivations behind goal setting and planning. Studies have shown that when gamers are presented with a picture related to a video game, their dorsolateral prefrontal cortex becomes activated. As such, the presentation of the game-related cue may connect this visual experience to memories of actual game-playing experiences, and in turn, motivate goal-directed actions to satisfy this craving.
Activation of the parahippocampus and thalamus have also been repeatedly associated with digital gaming addiction, especially in cue-induced cravings. They are involved with the limbic system of our brain, meaning they are involved with mainly emotional processing and memory retrieval. In this case, the presentation of a video game cue may trigger the parahippocampus to recall previous gaming experiences and the emotions associated with them. This emotional significance is then processed by the thalamus. As a result, this triggers a craving and in turn the desire to satisfy these cravings in digital gaming addiction.
Finally, another region of the brain associated with gaming addiction is the orbital frontal gyrus. Studies have shown that when gamers are presented with video game cues, this area of the brain has shown consistent activation as well, alongside the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the parahippocampus, and the thalamus. The orbital frontal cortex functions to choose appropriate behaviors and actions in response to certain cues.
What can you do to prevent your child from becoming addicted when you recognize the signs? Well, it is important to not force your child to abstain from gaming, as this can increase the need for video games. It is highly encouraged that a safe environment is upheld within the household, where the child is free to speak without fear of judgment or anger, should they express their emotions. Also, it is recommended that time slots are given that allow them to play for a reasonable time, but then they must participate in another activity.
If the adolescent is already experiencing addiction or the preemptive solutions haven't worked, there are multiple treatments to aid your child. The best option of treatment is to consultate with a professional psychologist about it. They may be able to find the underlying cause of addiction, as many video game addicts appear to suffer from undiagnosed depression and anxiety disorder. By using the Beck's Depression Inventory, also known as BDI, the psychologist can make a more informed decision. Your child will be assessed based on Young's Internet Addiction Scale, also known as YIAS. which is also used for video game addiction. The questionnaire includes questions like, my productivity and attentiveness suffers because of the amount of time I spend online. Based on their score, an appropriate treatment is prescribed. The psychologist may advise one-on-one counseling or family counseling, which are both effective in treating addiction. There are many aids in Hamilton to help you with this, such as Hamilton's Psychological Services, Brookside Psychologists, and Triloka Treatment Centers all contain psychologists that are qualified specifically in helping those suffering from gaming addiction.
The psychotherapists attempt to help them learn and understand the negative effects of their addiction on their school, emotion, mood, life goals, motivation, and rewards. The best recommended treatment is cognitive behavioral treatment, also known as CBT. CBT is a short-term, problem-orientated method of psychological treatment which the participants are asked to monitor their feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. As a result of this treatment, the addiction replaces the thoughts that lead to compulsive gaming with healthier thinking patterns. Eventually, the change in thinking patterns leads to behavioral change.
There is a growing field of pharmaceutical research regarding digital addiction. However, we recommend psychological and behavioral interventions by our psychologists as the first stage of treatment. At the second stage, bupropion is advised to be used with cognitive behavioral treatment, as they have shown promising clinical results. Bupropion in particular has appeared to offer help to some addicts by inhibiting norepinephrine and dopamine reuptake.
So now that you've been acquainted with the possible causes and consequences of digital gaming addiction, we hope that you can follow these next steps in preventing your child from becoming addicted or further addicted to video games. Mom, you never let me play video games again.
No, honey, you can play video games, but only for 1 hour a day. Why don't you go outside and play basketball with Johnny for a bit? You love basketball.
Okay, fine.